Here, I quickly do want to go over the Howard Lutnick interview he gave this morning, and he talks about how the negotiations went and what were the important points that the Chinese were not willing to negotiate on. And one of those was rare earths to other countries. They know they need that leverage to negotiate with other countries.
Howard Lutnick. Secretary Lutnick, thank you for the time. Good to see you.
Great to see you. So, we're there all night long, and then you have me here, and you got Scott Bessent with Ways and Means. So, we're working. This cabinet's working round the clock.
I was going to say, I hope you sleep on the plane. So give us the details. When the president says a U.S.-China trade deal is done, what does he mean?
So what happened is they set up the Geneva truce, if you will, right? Tariffs came down, but the Chinese had these rare earth magnets and they were slow rolling it. And so we started putting on the United States, when they weren't delivering the rare earth magnets, we started putting on.
Let me explain what he means by slow rolling. So when the trade war started, what China did was basically, hey, any company that wants to buy Chinese rare earths, they need specific permission from the government. And these permissions are not like, hey, Apple can buy it whenever they want. No. Apple has to submit a request every time they need it. So let's say they get one container of rare earths that's approved. They just get that one container. If they want a second container, then they have to go through the whole process all over again. And what China has been doing, they just weren't approving US companies. And this was even after we had the negotiations in Geneva, where China agreed that they will not be holding back rare earths. Even after that, they were not approving it. And that's what he means by slow rolling it. US was saying China is doing this on purpose. China is saying that's just bureaucracy. China just works slowly, and that's why it's not getting approved.
On our countermeasures, right? We cut planes, ethanol. Marco Rubio put out that students may not be able to come to America. Scott Bessent put out, look, we're going to go send subpoenas to all the banks. And we were at mutual assured annoyance, if you will. And then Donald Trump got on the phone with President Xi, and he changed everything. He basically said, we're friends. Let's be positive. When America and China are working well together, United States companies right away, think of that language, right away, very much like the same day. And then as they do that, we'll take off our measures. And we're in a great place with China. Really, really feels good. Now, President Trump's got to approve the final wording. President Xi's got to approve the final stuff. But it's not really wording. It's really the deal. But
Sure.
Both sides are really positive. I feel great about it.
Okay, that's good to hear. So when you said, so you're talking about the licenses that they were holding back for rare earth minerals, right? Essentially that we need in production of manufacturing and defense. So they're going to release that.
Right. If you think about these things, these magnets are part of a starter of a motor. Remember, motors are electric. So everything we've got that has a motor in it pretty much has one of these magnets because they're teeny, teeny, tiny. And by the way, they're not expensive at all. This is not new technology. This is like old. But what's happened is everybody uses it. And what happens is China got 90% market share. Now, the Biden administration had the ability to change this, and they blew it. They put out press releases they were going to fix it, and they just blew it. So President Trump went in, he fixed everything with President Xi, got us on the right track. We're totally on the right track, and now we're going to, just go forward with China. I think things feel really good. We left the room. Everybody was very positive. We left at midnight. 14 hours yesterday, 10 hours the day before. It took a lot of detail. But, with President Trump in background and President Xi behind their guys, with that positive view, it worked out pretty well. So I'm really excited about how this is going to work for America.
What took so long? What was the 14 hours a day? What was the back and forth? And what did the Chinese side want?
Well, the Chinese side always wants to remove our export controls. They're always trying to remove our export controls. And Scott Bessent gave one of my favorite lines of the whole negotiation. He said, really? No. So you want no export controls? Fine. I'd like to take home a couple of your best hypersonic missiles, please. Can I have them? So
that
it was
didn't
just
happen.
disarming.
I'm taking it.
No, obviously not. So it was just disarming. So the way to do it correctly was we were deeply respectful. There was no yelling and screaming, none of that stuff. It was just deeply respectful. Let's get down to it. Our leaders want this to be positive. They want this to go well. Let's make sure we get it done. But there's lots of detail. Remember, they only approved U.S. companies doing it. They wouldn't let us. We tried to do it for the world. We tried to negotiate for the world. We tried to get it done. And they were saying, no, that's our responsibility. We are willing to do this for America and only for Donald Trump and only for America. And so that.
And now this is where it's like, it is crazy because rare earths are extremely important to the modern economy. And China does have a very strong hold on the whole supply chain. So they're going to use it for anything they want. Now, of course, it doesn't always work because back in, I think 2013 or 2017, they had some problems with Japan. They tried using rare earths as like a leverage, but Japan was able to get it from other countries. But that's because other countries were willing to, I guess, sell to Japan. But that doesn't mean like that's not a problematic thing. And that's where we do need to start the refining process here in the United States. And hopefully what's more likely is other poorer countries or other third world countries will start doing more refining too, because they see it, how important it is. And other countries, there's a demand for it where countries want other countries to start refining rare earths, countries that are not China, basically.
Well, you've got a double problem there. I mean, even if the other countries are willing to, many of them don't have significant reserves. The top one is obviously China at about 44 million metric tons. Brazil is second at 21 million metric tons, but they don't have significant refining capacity for those rare earths. Yeah. So even though they've got a significant reserve, they don't have the ability, at least at this point in time, to actually refine them into usable materials. India is number 3 at 6.9 million metric tons. And while they could possibly put together the industry, I don't know if they've got any plans to do so at this point in time in any significant volume. But even so, Australia's 4th at 5.7 million, Russia at 3.8 million. You're already well around 10% or less of what China can bring to the table in actual rare earths. The U.S. is number 7 at 1.9 million metric tons. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't produce the volume that China does, at least as far as known reserves go.
Yeah, and also the bigger issue with rare earths is like, I think China only has around 60% of the world's reserves, but the refining is where they have the monopoly. They have exactly 90% refining. And that's because it just produces so much toxic waste. First world countries just don't want to do it. Not good. Like I wouldn't want to live next to it. You wouldn't want to live next to it. But hopefully other countries, they see the demand and they figure out a way to do it. Because with China, the bigger issue was this was a state-led initiative to take over the refining industry. And this is where it's like, it's kind of a badass. I think it was Deng Xiaoping who said in the 90s, it's like, Middle East has oil. Well, China will have rare earths. He started that back in the 90s and now they do have a monopoly. So in that sense,
well, and they undercut any other possible source. I mean, really, they've undercut them so much. You can buy Chinese neodymium magnets for pennies, and just because of how much they have undercut any other possible source in that refining and production capability.
And yeah, with steel too, with everything, it's like the Chinese companies just get so much subsidies, so they can produce something for so much cheaper than, let's say, a US company or even a British company. And then the same Chinese companies just try to ship that stuff overseas, undercut the market, and try to run other foreign competitors out of business using the government's money. It is insane. So we'll finish up this video and then we'll get into Russia-Ukraine stuff you have.
Sure.
That was the agreement. This is an American agreement. If you're an American company and you need magnets, they are going to approve it right away, which is what we needed. We tried for everybody else, but in the end, we did what we needed, and we will take off our countermeasures as they approve these magnets. We will approve we will remove our countermeasures, and we'll be good. We have our tariffs. They are excellent. They are great for America. The trading deal is great for America, and they've agreed. We're going to examine how China can do more business with us. We've got a giant trade deficit. How about China? You buy more of our agriculture. You buy more of our equipment. And I think they've agreed to that. We're going to go through that over the next couple of months. But this feels very, very positive. President Trump set the course in a very positive way. And I think this is really, really good for the foundation of our trade deals for America. This feels really good. I felt really good.
So, by the way, negotiations are not over. They will still continue. They're still trying to figure out everything. And of course, this deal needs approval from President Trump and President Xi Jinping. let's see. I'm hoping that's going to go smoothly, but you never know. We had a deal in Geneva. Something happened. Then there was just war of words from both sides. Both sides were blaming each other for backing out. That could still happen.
Well, the concern I have with Lutnick's statements here is that he's very much saying things like, I think, maybe, very much not as confident in what he's saying as necessarily I might have preferred. But it definitely is, it sounds like there's been some progress at least.